Welcome back, friends, to our podcast, Your World of Creativity. The podcast, we explore the minds of creative professionals all around the world to uncover how they get inspired, but also how they organize ideas and ultimately how we gain the connections and the confidence to launch our work out into the world. And today we're going to explore this idea of embracing change and transformation in business and in life through creative branding. My guest is Jamie Schwartzman. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about change. It's really the basis of all my work.
And the company that you work for and founded, Flux Branding, so Flux in and of itself, and now you're the chief creative strategist that founded this many years ago to really transform businesses. And I wanted to talk about this idea. Sometimes when we say branding, people are like, oh, nice logo, nice design, nice color palette. But I think you're trying to drill into maybe some measurable impact. What can a brand really do for a business?
First, I think that literacy around brand is still developing. I've been doing brand now for decades. And at the beginning, I had to do a lot more explaining of what brand is really all about. But brand is much more than just graphic design. It's much more than visuals. Brand is really about meaning and about story. And the benefits of it is engagement. And I would say engagement, not only, a lot of people think of brand as something that is reserved only for sales and marketing, but brand is really about culture and establishes really who are we, what are we all about. So this engagement isn't just about engaging customers for loyalty, it's about engaging our team. It's about engaging our partners, our competitors, our investors, everybody, so that they have a stake in the game.
And I'm glad you brought up investors. I think about when we say impact on a business, how does it affect shareholder value? I was reading one of your cases where, the impact on stock was measurable.
Listen, we have been involved in publicly traded companies, private companies, startups. You can imagine with almost 30 years of branding, we've worked with a lot of different companies. But I would say that brand can have an important impact on overall valuation. To be fair, it's one part of many.
Sure.
But I would say it tends to be like tip of the iceberg. And it's a very visible piece of the operation that can draft a lot of other development along with it. Because when you have people involved, when their hearts and souls are in the game, I call that a highly spirited organization. So in many ways, brand is a spiritual undertaking, developing spirit. And I don't mean religious kind of spirit. It's really the idea of highly spirited organizations tend to be highly effective. And so when we have that kind of level of commitment and passion within an organization, we have just a lot more capability, a lot more efficiency, a lot more productivity, because people are there for more than just a paycheck.
And let's think about that maybe as an inside out case study. There are a lot of companies who we might say get it wrong, or too shallow when they try to hit the refresh button and they think, if we change the sign, if we change the decal on the side of the van, things will get better.
Well, change is difficult and change can be challenging. It started for me, it was my mother. My mother said to me, Jamie, the only constant is change. And I didn't like hearing that. As a young person, I wanted things to be predictable. I wanted things to be the same. But I think I've come to learn that she was right, that change is constant. And embracing change allows for a lot of energy. Change can be a real catalyst. And if you think about the name of my studio, Flux Branding, Flux isn't just about change. Flux can also be a catalyst, an ingredient, something that helps something transform. Typically, the times when we're doing branding is there's something going on. It's not business as usual. In many cases, it's a challenge. It may be that we're losing market share. It may be that we have a competitive attack. Maybe we're launching a new product or service. Maybe it's just, we just need to hit the reset button and refresh. But there's a lot of reasons that this happens. And there's something going on that we're trying to address. And that's a big part of what I look for when I'm talking to a company for the first time, is what's going on, what's happening within your organization.
And I'd love to drill down a little bit on the craftsmanship, your approach to this. I love this four-step method, literally called IDEA. Maybe you could walk us through it.
Yeah, we've developed our own branded methodology. And I would say a lot of the times when I'm working with a client, we develop a methodology for them too. It's a really helpful way to explain what's going on. And I would say, even before I get into methodology, the work that we do is creative. And it's sometimes hard for us to describe creative processes in very distinct form. I think so many of the people I work with are not creative. And so it's really important that I have some way to describe the creative process and turn it into something that is like a framework that's repeatable, that's more reliable, and maybe more business oriented. So I came up with this idea called the IDEA method, 4 steps, IDEA. What I'm going to walk you through is, in fact, just best practices. Okay, Mark, these are best practices for branding. And I would say, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're thinking that branding is something that you want to do, it's really important to understand the methodology of who you're going to work with. So here's how I would break it down for you. I is Ignite. This is our process of brand discovery. The truth is, I really don't think that we craft brands. We reveal the brand that's already there. It's about finding what's going on within your organization. What's brilliant? What's radiant? What's incredible? What's important? What's different? What's unique? What makes you better? And we got to find out what that is. We're not going to invent that. This happens through workshops, in-depth interviews, customer interviews, market research, looking at the competitors, all types of different aspects of finding out what's going on within a company. Because quite frankly, we can't do branding if we don't earn the opportunity and the ability to speak on behalf of that particular brand. So the Ignite phase is really important. I think a lot of people undervalue the importance of this phase, and they just want to get through with it. I just need my colors.
What's all this backgrounding?
So what this is doing is, this is really the basis of meaning, right? Creating a meaningful brand that has some basis in story, some basis of interest. It starts with discovery. And just to even go a little deeper into it, you could imagine if we were in the gems business and we were trying to reveal the radiance of a stone, you and I could be walking around together. We could stumble across the largest diamond in the world. We wouldn't even know it. It looks like a pebble on the ground. It takes an expert to be able to look in to find the raw material that's valuable. So same thing when we do Ignite. We have the ability to do that. The other thing too is, a lot of people want to do this themselves. Very difficult. You are drinking your own Kool-Aid. Hard for you to see what's going on under your roof. So this is Ignite, and it's a critical part of igniting spark between you and your branding partner. Does that make sense before I move on?
Absolutely. And I think about when you say discovering rather than creating from scratch, there are brands and stories within organizations that they may not even realize they're telling over and over, almost as autopilot. And they don't realize that has become their brand, whether they wanted it to be or not.
Yeah, this is why we try to triangulate as much as possible. Sometimes CEO will say, well, you don't need to talk to the sales guys. Oh yeah, we need to talk to the sales guys. I want to find out what's happening on the outside. How do they feel? Every different aspect of the company. The more that we can do, the better. That brings us through Ignite. I would say that Ignite is always throttled by budget and time. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of treasure to go through and find these things, but we'll do the best we can given the budget. Then we move into phase 2, which is distill. And during the distill phase, we boil it down and concentrate it into a document. Think of this as copywriting, but I would think of it more as poetry. Coming up with those words that really reflect what that brand is all about. Everybody has a quote that they live by. Mark, do you have a quote that you live by?
Yes.
What's your quote?
In order to GET, you have to ASK.
Okay,
Jack
nice.
Canfield.
Beautiful. Mine is, if I had more time, I'd write a shorter letter.
Yes.
Simplicity is sophisticated. It takes a long time to boil something down, to reduce something down to its real essence. So you might say 3 words. That must have been easy to write. Well, in many cases, we'll write 10,000 words to get to 3. It's a process of refinement. The output here is what we call a brand platform. It's the Bible. It's the basis that the brand is all about. This is your brand strategy. Who are you? Where are you different? What are your core values? What do you promise the world? How do you describe your service offerings? What makes you better? What makes you different? Who are you for? This is the brand strategy. And in a lot of cases, we do naming there too. So naming is also critically important. This is really where we get to do the first bit of creative, right? But realize that we're not doing graphic design at this point. We present it in a way that's graphically cool, but we're not trying to get to your logo. Now we're still halfway in the project, and now we've done distill. Does this all make sense?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. All right. So next is energize. And this is where we get into doing design. Look, design matters. The way things look make a difference. I think now more than ever. We're all really busy. We don't have time to do a lot of reading. I'm glad you're listening to this podcast, but I can give you information in a quarter of a second visually that might take you 30 minutes to listen to in a dialogue like this. So we see visuals very important, but the visuals have to have meaning. So now that we've developed ideas, we've got to distill down, now we can create a visual language that is a way to communicate that strategy. This also helps the decision-making process rather than it just being purely about personal preference. Oh, I like purple, right? Maybe purple is the right color for you, but purple also might be a color that is already in use by one of your competitors. So it's informed visuals and informed visual language. In addition to just doing the design, we also set up rules about, okay, so how are we going to use them? What are the color standards? What's the typography? Type, does it make a difference? Yeah, it turns out it does. It makes a difference. Visuals make a difference, all of that stuff. So that's what happens in the energize phase. And with that, then we can start to move ahead. One thing I would like to say too is that I think it's really important in the energize phase to prove it. And what I mean by that is it's not good enough for me to give you some color swatches. Have you ever painted a room?
Yes. And the whole wall doesn't look like the little swatch.
You get the little swatch. This is a really nice gray. You paint the room. You're like, oh gosh, this is purple.
Yes.
It's lavender. We have to see things in use. So we do a lot of, we call them mock-ups, but they're visualizations. We'll do a billboard design. We'll do a web landing page. We'll do a piece of collateral, something, whatever, just to begin to dress out the look of this thing. We're doing an interesting project right now. It's a new aquaculture, ocean farms down in Baja, California, just over the border. They're raising a very interesting type of fish called steelhead, similar to salmon, but in that it spawns in freshwater, it's raised in saltwater, and we're working with chefs, top chefs. The food scene that's going on in Baja is incredible. Michelin chefs. It's a fantasy kind of project. But developing visual language was really important. How is this fish going to resonate with fine dining? How's it going to resonate with the type of chefs that are doing farm to table, that are really into sustainability, into ingredients? All of that has to come through in the visual language. And so it's hugely important. That gets us through energize. Any thoughts or questions about this whole part?
It's so interesting. And you talk about how this is expressed visually across so many different, again, ultimately we're trying to build a connection with the customer. And like you say, validating it, showing it in use, proving it is a whole lot different than, I think you ought to go with this font or this symbol.
Our brains are wired to respond to brilliant things. Our brains, dopamine is released when we come across novel, creative, or interesting ideas, interesting sounds. So we're already genetically hardwired to respond to things in positive ways. That creates an emotional experience. That emotional experience is memorable. And visuals are an important part of that. But it's not only visuals. The same can happen with sound. The same can happen with aroma. The same can happen with flavor. So all of these things, as we're beginning to do identity design, depending on what we are, the type of business, it may be visuals. But if we're doing a facial salon, what is the aroma profile when you come in? Does
Right.
it smell, is it sweet and floral, or is it chaparral? And does it have a different an earthy feel to it? Those are all ways to cue the brain. And really, at the end of the day, what are we doing in branding? We're trying to engineer a predictable emotional response upon everybody
Yes.
to create a unified experience. So we say, yeah, they're really the smartest. Or, oh, yeah, they're really going to take care of me. Oh, yeah, they have the strongest. And they're very simple ideas, very simple ideas. Activate is the fourth step of the process, and that's where we start doing stuff with it. Web is the most common right now. I find very few of my customers are happy with their website.
Yes.
Web is hard.
It is hard.
Web is hard. And I think web is hard because there's so many different aspects of it. It's software engineering, it's user experience, it's content, it's graphic design. There's a tremendous amount of lift that goes into making a great web experience. And I guess I would ask you, who's leading that charge right now? Is it a graphic designer? Is it your SEO company? Is it a social media marketing company? Everybody has their roles and their core competency, but developing the user experience and the interface really is the realm of brand.
Yes.
And I would say it is ground zero. It, depending on what you are, in some cases, it happens to be trade dress, packaging. We do a lot of packaging design with the same level of interest, but this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we're going to potentially convert a new prospect into a loyal fan. It's also where we're going to recruit and retain great talent. It's also where we're going to secure investment opportunity from investors. Maybe we're trying to sell our company. So these are all important areas in Activate. And Activate tends to go pretty broad for us. Sometimes we do fleet design. Sometimes we do signage design. Sometimes we do trade shows. I would say this is where we start in brand. And there's a difference because we start to exit the branding sphere and start to enter the marketing sphere. So I don't think that there's a hard line between branding and marketing. There's a sort of soft line. We blend in a little bit, but we're certainly not going into leads generation. We're not going into conversion optimization. We're not driving traffic to things. That's the realm of marketing.
And at this stage, you've been through, to get to Activate, you've been through the other steps. So hopefully people are warming up and embracing this change that's coming. If I changed my hat, if you changed your hat, if somebody tried to give us the makeover, all of this would affect our thinking, our outlook. We're used and comfortable with our brand. How many times do you run into these obstacles along the way where people say, can't we just stay with what we have? I think about the classic brands who've tried to change and go, maybe we went too far.
I think it's a process that needs to occur in steps and in phases. And hopefully we've done an adequate job in discovery, in distill, in energize, that we've created consensus along the way. I find that consensus is really the result of a lot of small agreements. So it's typically after we've done the Ignite session, we develop a report. Here's what we saw. And it's pretty easy to get people's heads nodding when we just are feeding back to them what we heard. Maybe we'll make some recommendations too. That's where eyebrows might lift a little bit. But we start by profiling, who are you? What are you right now? What have we heard? And this is where we get things to go on. Then when we do distill and we come up with ideas, we hear the issues, we hear there's consensus building during that. During energize, we're building visual language, we're building consensus there so that by the time we finally get to Activate, it's not a big surprise. I don't think branding studios that go away in secret and come back with a big reveal are doing a good service to themselves and to their customers. I think this is a collaborative, intimate process.
Very cool. Well, I think about your own stories, Jamie, and your own brand. One of the things I enjoyed reading about was your feature on Gordon Ramsay's Food Stars, and this kind of, what, I guess, personal branding, restaurant branding, food branding, all of the above. How fun was that?
Listen, I get a lot of really interesting calls, and I would say they're all interesting. I just was on the line with a new preventative health clinic that's going to open in Beverly Hills. I get all kinds of interesting calls. So this particular day, I was actually on vacation. I was in the desert at a place called Two Bunch Palms, that if anybody has ever been to Two Bunch Palms, it's an amazing spot out in Desert Hot Springs. And it's an old Native American sacred ground with hot springs. So I'm out there, I'm hanging out in this oasis, and I get a call. We're a TV show, we're looking for a branding expert. Okay, I probably would be your guy. After 3 calls, it turns out that it's Gordon Ramsay, and they are doing a new program for food entrepreneurs. 20 food entrepreneurs competing for a $250,000 investment in their company by Gordon Ramsay. But first, you're going to have to compete for the challenges. So it was a classic vote-off type of a show. It had boiled down to 3 finalists. And in the season finale, they wanted me to work with one of their finalists. Interesting guy. He was doing 3D printing of food. So he was basically printing these beverage, like he could print inside of a cup. You just filled a cup of water and it had a beverage. And it could be all types of different flavors or vitamins or nutrients, anything like that. Neat guy. We worked with him, coached him on the side. He won, by the way. So he was the winner of the $250,000 investment. And I would just say the experience was incredible. They set up a huge shoot. There must have been 300 people on set that day. Massive takeover of a really cool place in downtown LA called The Row. So it was at the old Tartine manufactory. They took it over and we got to go in, pitch them on what we discovered about their brand, how to simplify it back. He was able to use it. And then each of these brands set up a pop-up shop. And so they used a lot of the visuals that we did to do this pop-up shop. And lo and behold, he won. So it was a great story and a really great experience.
Very fun. Love these stories. Jamie, what a pleasure talking with you. Want to make sure people know where to find you and how to connect with you and learn more about this work.
Oh, yeah. And my website, fluxbranding.com, is a great place to go. And I have some free tools on my website, too. We haven't talked much about it, but we're really into archetypes and trying to align an archetype with the brand. So I have a really cool brand decoder on the website. It's free. And it doesn't go to the full 12 archetypes, but I've simplified it into 4 archetypes. You answer 6 questions. You will either be a protector, a lover, a dreamer, or an explorer. Those are the 4 types. And you don't have to put in your email. You can just do the sliders, play around with it, see where you come out. If you do put in your email, I'll send you a 25-page report that breaks down the answers for you. And I would say for anybody listening to this podcast who's really serious about branding, we do a really cool program called the Brand Blueprint. The Brand Blueprint is an interview with me. We ask a series of specific questions, and we're able to use that to develop a roadmap or a blueprint of where we think the brand should be heading. That's something typically that we charge $1,000 for. But for anybody from this podcast, if you just send me an email, Jamie, Jamie, at fluxbranding.com. Mark, maybe you can put it in the show notes.
I will definitely do that.
Send me an email and I will do a brand blueprint with you. And this is just to get a sense, this is not really great for solopreneurs. I'll probably shoot the moon. So if you've got a team, if you're really in growth mode, this would be something that might be appropriate for you. And I'd be happy.
Very generous. Thank you. And thinking ahead, Jamie, what's next for you? You've got so many ideas, stories, creativity bubbling inside you, I know.
Well,
what else are you going to be working on?
I'm writing a book right now. The book is called Brilliant, and it deals with the art and science of developing resonant brands and deals with many of the things we talked about today. How do we create the right facets and polishing those windows to be able to reveal our brilliance and our radiance? I also have a really interesting software company. So we do interesting, immersive visual explorations of places. In addition, I have a very robust and rich life, multifaceted. I love food, I love travel, I love music. So never a dull moment in my life. And so really happy to be able to talk to you today, Mark, and to your audience. Brand is really important. And I would say if you haven't really gone down the branding process, it can be a really valuable and rewarding experience. Think about it as almost corporate therapy. We
For sure.
begin to get into deep analysis, and the results of it can be very profound.
Yes. I know our listeners can relate to all your varied interests because we all have a lot of things going on in our life that we get inspired by. And it's always great to hear what other people are enjoying as well.
Yeah, I'd had one more little final piece about AI. And I don't think any conversation right now about
There you
brand
can.
would be appropriate without AI. And I would say that we're using AI extensively in positive ways. And in the past, we would train tone of voice by just providing a PDF document. Now we have the ability to do small language models and train AI voices in certain ways to use the proper lexicon, to have definition of terms, very specific use of words, which really do help in crafting messaging. So I see that the role of brand is going to continue to evolve as AI becomes more central. I don't, it's for me, it's already extremely central. For my customers, we're starting to see it roll out. I think that this is something that could really help in help desk and service desk, not just in chatbot, but in live agents, in being able to get to information more quickly or synthesizing ideas. So very excited about what's going on in technology as well.
Yeah. And that voice. My guest has been Jamie Schwartzman of Flux Branding. We've been talking about brand and brand process. And what I like the most is brand activation. We talk about how to get our work out into the world. And we put a lot of creative energy and muscle into it and getting that clarity and getting the strategy. But then ultimately launching is what I think it's all about. And Jamie, I really appreciate your stories and your insights.
Mark, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yes, indeed. And listeners, yeah, come back next time. First of all, our episode was brought to you today by our friends at White Cloud Coffee Roasters. You can get 10% off your first order when you use the code CREATIVITY at checkout. Visit whitecloudcoffee.com to see all their selection and blends. And thank you for listening to Your World of Creativity. Be sure to subscribe and rate and review us on the show. Helps us bring guests like Jamie on, but also expands the ideas and the real craftsmanship behind creativity. So I hope you'll come back again next time. And until then, we'll continue to explore ways to unlock your world of creativity. I'm Mark Stenson. We'll see you next time.